Indonesia faces a shortage of doctors, yet universities trying to open a new medical school immediately hit an impenetrable wall of regulatory friction. This document is the Directorate General of Higher Education's Decree number 139 of 2022. It dictates the exact legal and operational requirements an institution must clear to open a bachelor's medical program and professional medical education program. The state's underlying philosophy here is an aggressive balancing act. The government needs to rapidly increase the national capacity to train physicians, but it refuses to let that expansion compromise clinical safety or educational standards. To enforce this, the decree relies on a front-loaded quality assurance model. A university must prove it possesses the full operational capacity of an active medical faculty before it is legally allowed to admit a single student. The compliance blueprint for this decree rests on three architectural pillars. The first pillar governs geographic accreditation and institutional mentorship. The second pillar dictates the human capital matrix, the specific roster of specialized faculty required on day one. And the third pillar establishes the clinical and physical footprint, mandating the exact laboratory infrastructure and teaching hospital integration. This decree functions as a strict, interconnected system. A failure to meet the requirements of any single pillar prevents the entire faculty from legally operating. The decree does not treat all universities equally. The baseline barrier to entry shifts depending on the institution's geographic location. Section 3 of this document splits accreditation thresholds geographically. On Java, the university must hold an Unggul or A accreditation or have 50% of programs at that tier. Outside Java, the threshold drops to a minimum baik sekali or This geographic gradient is engineered to incentivize the expansion of medical education in underserved, remote regions, while keeping the standards aggressively high in urban areas that are already saturated with doctors. Beyond baseline accreditation, the first pillar introduces a second major prerequisite: mandatory mentorship. This section requires a formal cooperation agreement. A new medical program must be legally bound to an existing medical faculty that will guide its development. That mentor institution cannot be just any school. The mentoring faculty must currently hold an A or Unggul accreditation rating. To prevent these elite institutions from overextending their resources, the decree imposes a systemic load limit. One established faculty can mentor a maximum of 3 new medical schools at any given time. A university's ambition to open a medical school is geographically gatekept and entirely dependent on securing a scarce, highly regulated partnership with an elite institution. Once the institutional partnerships are secured, the second pillar demands a massive, front-loaded hiring push to build the human capital matrix. This section establishes the minimum intellectual infrastructure. The university must hire a non-negotiable roster of 26 full-time physicians as permanent lecturers. 14 slots are strictly dedicated to the bachelor's phase, and 12 to the clinical profession phase. The taxonomy further requires 10 biomedical roles filled by doctors holding at least a magister or specialist qualification. The university needs distinct experts in specific microfields like anatomy, biochemistry, histology, and pharmacology. Next, the matrix demands 2 distinct experts specializing in public health, community medicine, or preventive health. Point 3 mandates 1 specialized expert in medical humanities and bioethics. Point 4 outlines 1 expert holding a master's degree in medical education. Finally, the professional phase dictates a roster of 12 clinical specialists, covering active practitioners in fields from surgery to forensics. To prevent university retired or part-time doctors simply to pad their accreditation paperwork, the decree builds in strict administrative guardrails. The decree specifies absolute age limits for faculty, ranging from 58 up to 70 for active professors. It also enforces a binding full-time requirement. Every doctor must commit to 37.5 hours per week of dedicated educational time, measured by the EWMP standard. This precise human capital matrix forces universities to locate, hire, and secure highly specialized full-time medical talent before they can generate a single rupiah of tuition revenue. It acts as a massive financial filter. The third pillar addresses the physical space and clinical environment required to house these 26 physicians and properly train their prospective students. This section mandates immediate access to fully equipped scientific laboratories. The decree lists 11 specific physical labs that must exist on campus, ranging from anatomy and microbiology to biomolecular science. Additionally, it requires a dedicated clinical skills lab for practicing procedures before touching real patients. But the physical footprint extends beyond the closed campus environment. It moves out into the real-world clinical environment, the teaching hospital. A medical faculty cannot exist in an academic vacuum. It must be tethered to a functioning healthcare facility to provide real-world clinical exposure. Section N details strict legal prerequisites for the hospital partnership. The hospital must have the capacity of at least a Class C facility. Furthermore, it must be officially accredited as a teaching hospital by CARS, the independent commission enforcing strict quality and patient safety standards. Furthermore, the decree applies a geographic proximity rule. The teaching hospital must be in the exact same city or regency as the main campus, or a directly bordering region. This ensures realistic daily access for students rotating through their clinical shifts. This physical pillar ensures a new medical school is fully integrated into the regional healthcare system from day one, rather than operating as an isolated theoretical academic island. Institutional mentorship, the 26-physician human capital matrix, and the clinical footprint. These three pillars form the complete architectural blueprint. The systemic intent of Decree 139 is clear. It is purposefully designed to aggressively filter out undercapitalized or unserious institutions. These requirements are not target goals for a 5-year growth plan. They are day zero baseline prerequisites. For university executives and expansion planners, the strategic takeaway is that traditional, sequential planning will result in failure. Securing elite hospital agreements, recruiting 26 specialized doctors away from active clinical practice, and building 11 custom laboratories must all be executed concurrently. Only institutions with massive upfront capital, deep academic networks, and precise execution can navigate this decree to mint the next generation of Indonesian physicians.